How are you? I hope you're well. It's Wednesday, so as ever, we are together. I need to open that back up so I can see you guys. So I put a link in the chat a little while ago because AG made his post. So I wanted to make sure that he had a chance for his audience to see it before I was like, hey. But he is having a VIP launch party September 19th in Nashville. And I'm so excited. We're going to try to have most of the Hallowed Hearth members there. Yeah, I'm going to do everything I can to be there. That is September 19th. Click the link there. Get your VIP box. AG has come up with a game to go along with the book, which is super cool. And I can't wait to play it. But yeah, hopefully AG will be watching. If you are here watching, please say hello in the chat so I know you're here. If you are new and haven't seen us before, but you are here either through Kelly sharing or Heidi sharing or any of my shares over on Facebook or even on TikTok, hi and welcome. Kelly's here. Thank you so much for sharing. Kelly is a big supporter of the show and just one of the most wonderful human beings I have ever met. And I'm so glad the universe brought us together because she's just a doll. Heidi is so cool. I think she is actually hosting an audition right now for Written in the Dark. We've got a few more roles that have not been filled yet. So yeah, if you are in Central Indiana and you're an actress, reach out to Heidi, see what other roles are still there. I'm going to let her correct me if I'm wrong in the chat. But we may still need some extras for September 5th. And I know that is Labor Day weekend, so people might be busy. But if you want to be in a movie with me, come in, hang out. Sorry, if you're listening later, I was just pointing to myself and telling people to come be in a movie with me. Yeah. What else is going on? Okay. So, just putting it out there. What are some things that you guys would... Oh, God. I don't know how to ask this in a way that's not weird. So there are a lot of things coming up that I want to do that require some travel, cons, haunted places, educational excursions, because, okay, so, sorry. This popped up a few weeks ago, YouTube. I was listening to another creator, the Y-Files, and I love the Y-Files. But he has an episode on shared death experiences, SDEs. And now I'm just like, I want to know more. I want to know more about these. I want to talk to people who have had these experiences. I want to research. And that is not free. So I'm not, I guess if you guys have experience with this, if you are a creator yourself and are watching either live with me or you can jump in the chat and say, hey, or if you're watching this later, that is great too. You can send me a message here. My name is the same over on Facebook and Instagram. Yeah, I guess I would like some advice on how to fund myself to do these things, because yeah, I want to be able to bring you guys more content and just learn. Like, I'm learning so much. And also travel to some of the places that we have been in our books, or we're going to go based on the books that we already have, because seriously, how cool would it be to my folks are here. My folks are here. Hi. Yeah, so anyway, trying to figure out how to self-fund some of this stuff, because yeah, it's going to be really cool. And the second channel, I think it's going to be maybe split up a little bit, or we may split this one up, but the second channel is going to become something that I've kind of wanted to do. I know I was doing Reddit stories on there, but everybody is doing Reddit stories, and there's going to be a lot of overlap there. So taking the theme of our short stories, we're going to start doing nighttime with Nana, because I love that the twins call me Nana, and some other littles have started calling me Nana, and I think it's great. So we are going to, those are going to be pre-recorded so we can do some editing, maybe throw some of our pages in, but it will be truly like bedtime stories for littles. So if you have one that you're like, that might be too juvenile for this channel, send it to me, because of course we're going to have a reading of Goodnight Moon. We've got so many. We might do little critter books. I think we're going to have to do little critter books, because those are the best. Oh, yeah. But anyway, we're tangenting again. Digressions all over the place. Tonight, what we are actually doing, now that, let's see, I've wasted 7 minutes of your time, 9 minutes of your, 8 minutes of your time. We're going to crack an Ale-8-1 Blackberry, because this is my favorite of the Ale-8 ones. They're so good. And we're finishing up 2 authors tonight, because we did not get to their other stories the last 2 weeks. So if you have been here the last 2 weeks, you know that we have read H.G. Wells. And last week we read H.H. Munro, who is better known as Saki. And tonight we're going to finish their sections, but they're going to be 2 very different stories. Oh, Kelly, you had no idea they had, okay. They do. So they have the original and a sugar-free version of that. They have an orange cream, a cherry, which is also so very good. Seasonally, so you may not be able to find it in stores right now, they have a pawpaw flavor. And then, of course, there's the Roxy Cola, or Roxa Cola, excuse me, not Roxy, Roxa. Yeah, to be real honest with everybody, I don't know that I had ever had an Ale-8-1 prior to 2024. I would be very surprised if I had, because I just don't think I had. But then we came across these pawpaw. Absolutely. Yes, ma'am. But I just think the blackberry is the best. Now, excuse me. Um, yeah, I don't know. But I mean, I'm a sucker for blackberries anyway. So it's not really surprising to me that that's my favorite. But yeah, we don't have the different flavor. I have not checked at Meijer to see if they have the different flavor ones there. Kroger here near me only has the originals. These were brought to me because, of course, they were. Yeah. So that is what I know about everything at this point. Beyond the fact that we're going to read a couple of really good stories tonight, they are, as I say, going to be very different in style, in writing, in language. But yeah, I'm excited to share them with you. And if you guys will, up in the comments, please definitely check out AG's stuff. Go. He only made like 50 of the VIP boxes, so they will be specially numbered, all that good stuff. But we'll go ahead and get started tonight with H.G. Wells and his story that was first published in 1903 called The Magic Shop. I had seen the magic shop from afar several times. I had passed it once or twice. A shop window of alluring little objects, magic balls, magic hens, wonderful cones, ventriloquist dolls, the material of a basket trick, packs of cards that looked all right, and all that sort of thing. But never had I thought of going in until one day, almost without warning, Gip hauled me up by my finger right up to the window, and so conducted himself that there was nothing for it but to take him in. I had not thought the place was there, to tell the truth. A modest-sized frontage in Regent Street, between the picture shop and the place where the chicks run about just out of patent incubators. But there it was, sure enough. I had fancied it was down near the circus, around the corner in Oxford Street, or even in Holborn, always over the way and a little inaccessible it had been, with something of the mirage in its position. But here it was now, quite indisputably, and the fat end of Gip's pointing finger made a noise upon the glass. "If I was rich," said Gip, dabbing a finger at the disappearing egg, "I'd buy myself that. And that," which was the crying baby, very human, "and that," which was a mystery, and called, so a neat card asserted, "Buy one and astonish your friends." "Anything," said Gip, "will disappear under one of those cones. I've read about it in a book." "And there, Dada, is a vanishing halfpenny. Only they've put it up this way so's we can't see how it's done." Gip, dear boy, inherits his mother's breeding, and he did not propose to enter the shop or worry in any way. Only, quite unconsciously, he lugged my finger doorward, and he made his interest clear. "That," he said, and pointed to the magic bottle. "If you had that," I said, at which promising inquiry he looked up with sudden radiance. "I could show it to Jessie," he said, thoughtful as ever of others. "It's less than 100 days to your birthday, Gibbles," I said, and laid my hand on the door handle. Gip made no answer, but his grip tightened on my finger, and so we came into the shop. It was no common shop, this. It was a magic shop, and all the prancing precedents Gip would have taken in the matter of mere toys was wanting. He left the burden of the conversation to me. It was a little, narrow shop, not very well lit, and the doorbell pinged again with a plaintive note as we closed it behind us. For a moment or so, we were alone and could glance about us. There was a tiger in paper mache on the glass case that covered. There was a tiger in papier mache on the glass case that covered the low counter, a grave, kind-eyed tiger that waggled his head in a methodical manner. There were several crystal spheres, a china hand holding magic cards, a stock of magic fish bowls in various sizes, and an immodest magic hat that shamelessly displayed its springs. On the floor were magic mirrors, one to draw you out long and thin, one to swell your head and vanish your legs, and one to make you short and fat like a draught. And while we were laughing at these, the shopman, as I suppose, came in. At any rate, there he was behind the counter, a curious, sallow, dark man, with one ear larger than the other, and a chin like the toe cap of a boot. "What can we have the pleasure?" he said, spreading his long magic fingers on the glass case, and so with a start we were aware of him. I said, "to buy my little boy a few simple tricks." He asked, "Mechanical? Domestic? Anything amusing?" said I. Said the shopman, and scratched his head for a moment as if thinking. Then quite distinctly he drew from his head a glass ball. "Something in this way," he said, and held it out. The action was unexpected. I had seen the trick done at entertainments endless times before. It's part of the common stock of conjurers, but I had not expected it here. "That's good," I said with a laugh. "Isn't it?" said the shopman. Gip stretched out his disengaged hand to take this object and found merely a blank palm. "It's in your pocket," said the shopman, and there it was. "How much will that be?" I asked. "We make no charge for glass balls," said the shopman politely. "We get them," he picked one out of his elbow as he spoke, "free." He produced another from the back of his neck and laid it beside its predecessor on the counter. Gip regarded the glass ball sagely, then directed a look of inquiry at the two on the counter, and finally brought his round-eyed scrutiny to the shopman, who smiled. "You may have those too," said the shopman, "and if you don't mind one from my mouth, so." Gip counseled me mutely for a moment, and then in a profound silence put away the 4 balls, resumed my reassuring finger, and nerved himself for the next event. "We get all of our smaller tricks in that way," the shopman remarked. I laughed in the manner of one who subscribes to a jest. "Instead of going to the wholesale shop," I said. "Of course it's cheaper." "In a way," the shopman said, "though we pay in the end, but not so heavily as people suppose. Our larger tricks and our daily provisions and all the other things we want, we get out of that bat. Oh, out of that hat. Makes more sense. And you know, sir, if you'll excuse my saying it, there isn't a wholesale shop. Not for genuine magic goods, sir. I don't know if you noticed our inscription, the genuine magic shop." He drew a business card from his cheek and handed it to me. "Genuine," he said with his finger on the word, and added, "There is absolutely no deception, sir." He seemed to be carrying out the joke pretty thoroughly, I thought. He turned to Gip with a smile of remarkable affability. You know, are the right sort of boy. The right sort of boy? Um, that seems a bit frightening, but okay. I was surprised at his knowing that, because in the interests of discipline, we keep it rather a secret even at home. But Gip received it in an unflinching silence, keeping a steadfast eye on him. It's only the right sort of boy who gets through that doorway. And, as if by way of illustration, there came a rattling at the door, and a squeaking little voice could be faintly heard. Yar, I won't go in there. Dad, I won't go in there. No. And then the accents of a downtrodden parent, urging consolations and propitiations. It's locked, Edward, he said. But it isn't, said I. It is, sir, said the shopman, always for that sort of child. And as he spoke, we had a glimpse of the other youngster, a little white face, pallid from sweet eating and over-sapid food, and distorted by evil passions, a ruthless little egotist pawing at the enchanted pain. It's no good, sir, said the shopman, as I moved with my natural helpfulness doorward, and presently the spoiled child was carried off howling. How do you manage that? I said, breathing a little more freely. Magic, said the shopman with a careless wave of the hand, and behold, sparks of colored fire flew out of his fingers and vanished into the shadows of the shop. You were saying, he said, addressing himself to the Gip, before you came in that you would like one of our buy one and astonish your friends boxes? Gip, after a gallant effort, said, Yes. It's in your pocket. And leaning over the counter, he really had an extraordinary long body. This amazing person produced the article in the customary conjurer's manner. Paper, he said, and took a sheet out of the empty hat with the springs. String, and behold, his mouth was a string box, from which he drew an unending thread, which, when he had tied his parcel, he bit off, and it seemed to me swallowed the ball of string. And then he lit a candle at the nose of one of the ventriloquist dummies, stuck one of his fingers, which had become sealing wax red, into the flame, and so sealed the parcel. Then there was the disappearing egg, he remarked, and produced one from within my coat breast and packed it, and also the crying baby, very human. I handed each parcel to Gip as it was ready, and he clasped them to his chest. He said very little, but his eyes were eloquent. The clutch of his arms was eloquent. He was the playground of unspeakable emotions. Those, were real magics. Then, with a start, I discovered something moving about in my hat, something soft and jumpy. I whipped it off, and a ruffled pigeon, no doubt a Confederate, dropped out and ran on the counter, and went, I fancy, into a cardboard box behind the papier-mâché tiger. Tut, tut, said the shopman, dexterously relieving me of my headdress. Careless bird, and as I live, nesting. He shook my hat and shook out into his extended hand 2 or 3 eggs, a large marble, a watch, about half a dozen of the inevitable glass balls, and then crumpled, crinkled paper. More and more and more, talking all the time of the way in which people neglect to brush their hats inside as well as out. Politely, of course, but with a certain personal application. All sorts of things accumulate, sir. Not you, of course, in particular. Nearly every customer. Astonishing what they carry about with them. The crumpled paper rose and billowed on the counter more and more and more until he was nearly hidden from us, until he was altogether hidden. And still his voice went on and on. We none of us know what the fair semblance of a human being may conceal, sir. Are we all then no better than brushed exteriors, whited sepulchres? His voice stopped. Exactly like when you hit a neighbor's gramophone with a well-aimed brick. The same instant silence. And the rustle of the paper stopped. And everything was still. Have you done with my hat? I said after an interval. There was no answer. I stared at Gip, and Gip stared at me, and there were our distortions in the magic mirrors, looking very rum and grave and quiet. I think we'll go now, I said. Will you tell me how much all this comes to? I say, I said on a rather louder note, I want the bill and my hat, please. It might have been a sniff from behind the paper pile. Let's look behind the counter, Gip, I said. He's making fun of us. I led Gip around the head-wagging tiger, and what do you think there was behind the counter? No one at all. Only my hat on the floor and a common conjurer's lop-eared white rabbit lost in meditation and looking as stupid and crumpled as only a conjurer's rabbit can do. I resumed my hat, and the rabbit lolloped a lollop or so out of my way. Dada, said Gip in a guilty whisper. What is it, Gip? Said I. I do like this shop, Dada. So should I said to myself, if the counter wasn't suddenly extended itself to shut one off from the door. But I didn't call Gip's attention to that. Pussy. Oh, wait. Yeah. Pussy, he said with a hand out to the rabbit as it came lolloping past us. Pussy, do give him magic. And his eyes followed it as it squeezed through a door I'd certainly not remarked a moment before. Then this door opened wider, and the man with one ear larger than the other appeared again. He was smiling still, but his eyes met mine with something between amusement and defiance. You'd like to see our showroom, sir, he said with an innocent suavity. Gip tugged my finger forward. I glanced at the counter and met the shopman's eye again. I was beginning to think the magic was just a little too genuine. We haven't very much time, I said. But somehow we were inside the showroom before I could finish that. All goods of the same quality, said the shopman, rubbing his flexible hands together. And that is the best. Nothing in the place that isn't genuine magic, warranted thoroughly rum. Excuse me, sir. I felt him pull at something that clung to my coat sleeve, and then I saw he held a little wriggling red demon by the tail. The little creature bit and fought and tried to get at his hand, and in a moment he tossed it carelessly behind the counter. No doubt the thing was only an image of twisted India rubber, but for a moment, whew. And his gesture was exactly that of a man who handles some petty biting bit of vermin. I glanced at Gip, but Gip was looking at a magic rocking horse. I was glad he hadn't seen the thing. I say, I said in an undertone, and indicating Gip and the red demon with my eyes. You haven't many things like that about, have you? None of ours probably brought it in with you, said the shopman, also in an undertone and with a more dazzling smile than ever. Astonishing what people will carry about with them unawares. And then to Gip, do you see anything you fancy here? There are many things that get fancied there. He turned to this astonishing tradesman with mingled confidence and respect. Is that a magic sword? He said. A magic toy sword. It neither bends, breaks, nor cuts the fingers. It renders the bearer invincible in battle against anyone under 18. Half a crown to 7 and 6 pence, according to size. These panoplies on cards are for juvenile knights, errant and very useful. Shield of safety, sandals of swiftness, helmet of invisibility. Oh, Dada! Gasped Gip. I tried to find out what they cost, but the shopman did not heed me. He had got Gip now. He had got him away from my finger. He had embarked upon the exposition of all his confounded stock, and nothing was going to stop them. Presently, I saw with a qualm of distrust and something very like jealousy that Gip had hold of this person's finger as usually he has hold of mine. No doubt the fellow was interesting, I thought, and he had an interestingly fake lot of stuff. Really good faked stuff. Still, I wandered after them, saying very little, but keeping an eye on this prestidigital fellow. After all, Gip was enjoying it, and no doubt when the time came to go, we should be able to go quite easily. It was a long, rambling place, that showroom, a gallery broken up by stands and stalls and pillars, with archways leading off to other departments, in which the queerest-looking assistants loafed and stared at one, and with perplexing mirrors and curtains. So perplexing indeed were these that I was presently unable to make out the door by which we had come. The shopman showed Gip magic trains that ran without steam or clockwork, just as you set the signals, and then some very, very valuable boxes of soldiers that all came alive directly you took off the lid and said, I haven't myself a very quick ear, and it was a tongue-twisting sound. But Gip, he has his mother's ear. Got it in no time. Bravo, said the shopman, putting the men back into the box unceremoniously and handing it to Gip. Now, said the shopman, and in a moment Gip had made them all alive again. You'll take that box, said the shopman. We'll take that box, said I, unless you charge its full value, in which case it would need a trust magnate. Dear heart, no. And the shopman swept the little men back again, shut the lid, waved the box in the air, and there it was in brown paper, tied up and with Gip's full name and address on the paper. The shopman laughed at my amazement. This is the genuine magic, he said. The real thing. It's a little too genuine for my taste, I said. After that, he fell to showing Gip tricks, odd tricks, and still odder the way they were done. He explained them. He turned them inside out, and there was the dear little chap nodding his busy bit of a head in the sagest manner. I did not attend as well as I might. Hey, presto, said the magic shopman, and then would come the clear, small, hey, presto, of the boy. But I was distracted by other things. It was being borne in upon me just how tremendously rum this place was. It was, so to speak, inundated by a sense of rumness. There's something a little rum about the fixtures, even, about the ceiling, about the floor, about the casually distributed chairs. I had a queer feeling that whenever I wasn't looking at them straight, they went askew and moved about and played a noiseless puss in the corner behind my back. And the corners had a serpentine design with masks, masks altogether too expressive for proper plaster. Then abruptly, my attention was caught by one of the odd-looking assistants. He was some way off and evidently unaware of my presence. I saw a sort of three-quarter length of him over a pile of toys and through an arch. And he was leaning against a pillar in an idle sort of way, doing the most horrid things with his features. The particular horrid thing he did was with his nose. He did it just as though he was idle and wanted to amuse himself. First of all, it was a short, blobby nose. And then suddenly he shot it out like a telescope. And then out it flew and became thinner and thinner until it was like a long, red, flexible whip. Like a thing in a nightmare it was. He flourished it about and flung it forth as a fly fisher flings his line. My instant thought was that Gip mustn't see him. I turned about, and there was Gip quite preoccupied with the shopman, thinking no evil. They were whispering together and looking at me. Gip was standing on a little stool, and the shopman was holding a sort of big drum in his hand. "Hide and seek, Dada!" cried Gip. "You're he!" And before I could do anything to prevent it, the shopman had clapped the big drum over him. I saw what was up directly. "Take that off," I cried, "this instant. You'll frighten the boy. Take it off." The shopman, with his unequal ears, did so without a word, and held the big cylinder towards me to show its emptiness. And the little stool was vacant. In that instant, my boy had utterly disappeared. Perhaps that sinister something that comes like a hand out of the unseen and grips your heart about it. It takes your common self away and leaves you tense and deliberate, neither slow nor hasty, neither angry nor afraid. So it was with me. I came up to this grinning shopman and kicked his stool aside. "Stop this folly," I said. "Where is my boy?" "You see," he said, still displaying the drum's interior, "there is no deception." I put out my hand to grip him, and he eluded me by a dexterous movement. I snatched again, and he turned from me and pushed open a door to escape. "Stop!" I said, and he laughed, receding. I leapt after him into utter darkness. Thud. "Lord bless my heart, I didn't see you coming, sir." I was in Regent Street, and I had collided with a decent-looking working man. And a yard away, perhaps, and looking a little perplexed with himself, was Gip. There was some sort of apology, and then Gip had turned and come to me with a bright little smile, as though for a moment he'd missed me. And he was carrying 4 parcels in his arm. He secured immediate possession of my finger. For the second, I was rather at a loss. I stared round to see the door of the magic shop, and behold, it was not there. There was no door, no shop, nothing. Only the common pilaster between the shop where they sell pictures and the window with the chicks. And did the only thing possible in that mental tumult. I walked straight to the curbstone and held up my umbrella for a cab. "Hansoms," said Gip, in a note of culminating exultation. I helped him in, recalled my address with an effort, and got in also. Something unusual proclaimed itself in my tailcoat pocket, and I felt and discovered a glass ball. With a petulant expression, I flung it into the street. Gip said nothing. For a space, neither of us spoke. Dada, said Gip at last. That was a proper shop. I came round with that to the problem of just how the whole thing had seemed to him. He looks completely undamaged. So far, good. He was neither scared nor unhinged. He was simply tremendously satisfied with the afternoon's entertainment, and there in his arms were the 4 parcels. Confounded, what could be in them? I said, little boys can't go to shops like that every day. He received this with his usual stoicism, and for a moment I was sorry I was his father and not his mother, and so couldn't suddenly there, coram publico, in our hansom, kiss him. After all, I thought, the thing wasn't so very bad. But it was only when we opened the parcels that I really began to be reassured. 3 of them contained boxes of soldiers, quite ordinary lead soldiers, but of so good a quality as to make Gip altogether forget that originally these parcels had been magic tricks of the only genuine sort. And the 4th contained a kitten, a little living white kitten, in excellent health and appetite and temper. I saw this unpacking with a sort of provisional relief. I hung about in the nursery for quite an unconscionable time. That happened 6 months ago. And now I am beginning to believe it is all right. The kitten had only the magic natural to all kittens, and the soldier seemed as steady a company as any colonel could desire. And Gip? The intelligent parent will understand that I have to go cautiously with Gip. Hi, the 13th Archangel. But I went so far as this one day. I said, how would you like your soldiers to come alive, Gip? March about by themselves? Mine do, said Gip. I just have to say a word I know before I open the lid. Then they march about alone? Oh, quite, Dada. I shouldn't like them if they didn't do that. I displayed no unbecoming surprise, and since then I've taken occasion to drop in upon him once or twice, unannounced, when the soldiers were about. But so far I've never discovered them performing in anything like a magical manner. It's so difficult to tell. There's also a question of finance. I have an incurable habit of paying bills. I have been up and down Regent Street several times looking for that shop. I'm inclined to think, indeed, that in that matter honor is satisfied, and that since Gip's name and address are known to them, I may very well leave it to these people, whoever they may be, to send in their bill in their own time. Would love a real magic shop. Genuine magic. Not the kind of stuff we used to do with Dalton when he was little. Hide a coin. Magic, 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 magic. And somehow try to drop it while he's watching you shake your hands saying magic. Oh. I do have a Blackstone magic kit. Do you guys remember Blackstone, the magician? I had the kit when I was a little kid, and then I found one a few years ago at like a rummage or a resale shop or something. But those were the best. Um, how long is our next story? Oh, perfect. Perfect. Amount of time that's just right. I hope you guys enjoyed that. If you just joined during that one, please say hey, like the 13th Archangel did. Even just a little wave so we know you're here and we can say hey. Also, don't forget to like, share, subscribe. The shares super, super help. So thank you to everybody who shares the event when I invite you to it, or if you see it on Facebook. Make sure you're hitting the notifications because, yeah, it'll tell you I've gone live. That way, if you are running on empty and forget that today is Wednesday, YouTube will remind you. And I do that with some of the other creators that I follow because I want to make sure that I know when they've gone live. So go ahead and do that here. Yeah. So our second story tonight is the third from H.H. Munro, better known as Saki. And this one was first published in 1911. And it is called The Open Window. My aunt will be down presently, Mr. Natal, said a very self-possessed young lady of 15. In the meantime, you must try and put up with me. Frampton Natal endeavored to say the correct something which should duly flatter the niece of the moment, without unduly discounting the aunt that was to come. Privately, he doubted more than ever whether these formal visits on a succession of total strangers would do much toward helping the nerve cure which he was supposed to be undergoing. I know how it will be, his sister had said when he was preparing to migrate to the rural retreat. You will bury yourself down there and not speak to a living soul, and your nerves will be worse than ever from moping. I shall just give you letters of introduction to all the people I know there. Some of them, as far as I can remember, were quite nice. Frampton wondered whether Mrs. Sappleton, the lady to whom he was presenting one of the letters of introduction, came into the nice division. Do you know many of the people round here? Asked the niece, when she judged that they had sufficient silent communion. Hardly a soul, said Frampton. My sister was staying here, the rectory, some 4 years ago, and she gave me letters of introduction to some of the people here. He made the last statement in a tone of distinct regret. Then you know practically nothing about my aunt, pursued the self-possessed young lady. Only her name and address, admitted the caller. He was wondering whether Mrs. Sappleton was in the married or widowed state. An undefinable something about the room seemed to suggest masculine habitation. Her great tragedy happened just 3 years ago, said the child. That would be since your sister's time. Her tragedy? Asked Frampton. Somehow in this restful country spot, tragedies seemed out of place. You may wonder why we keep that window wide open on October afternoon, said the niece, indicating a large French window that opened up onto a lawn. It is quite warm for the time of the year, said Frampton, but has that window got anything to do with the tragedy? Out through that window, 3 years ago to a day, her husband and her 2 young brothers went off for their day's shooting. They never came back. In crossing the moor to their favorite snipe shooting ground, they were all 3 engulfed in a treacherous piece of bog. It had been that dreadful wet summer, and places that were safe in other years, gave way suddenly without warning. Their bodies were never recovered. That was the dreadful part of it. Here the child's voice lost its self-possessed note and became falteringly human. Poor Aunt always thinks that they will come back some day, and the little brown spaniel that was lost with them, and walk in at that window just as they used to do. That is why the window is kept open every evening till it is quite dusk. Poor dear Aunt, she's often told me how they went out. Her husband with his white waterproof coat over his arm, and Ronnie, her youngest brother, singing Birdie Wide You Bound, as he always did to tease her because she said it got on her nerves. Do you know, sometimes on still, quiet evenings like this, I almost get a creepy feeling that they will all walk in through that window. She broke off with a little shudder. It was a relief to Frampton when the aunt bustled into the room with a whirl of apologies for being late in making her appearance. I do hope Vera has been amusing you, she said. She has been very interesting, said Frampton. I hope you don't mind the open window, said Mrs. Sappleton briskly. My husband and brothers will be home directly from shooting, and they always come in that way. They've been out for snipe in the marshes today, so they'll make a fine mess over my poor carpets. So like you menfolk, isn't it? She rattled on cheerfully about the shooting and the scarcity of birds and the prospects for duck in the winter. To Frampton, it was all purely horrible. He made a desperate but only partially successful effort to turn the talk onto a less ghastly topic. He was conscious that his hostess was giving him only a fragment of her attention, and her eyes were constantly straying past him to the open window and the lawn beyond. It was certainly an unfortunate coincidence that he should have paid his visit on this tragic anniversary. The doctors agree in ordering me complete rest, an absence of mental excitement, and avoidance of anything in the nature of violent physical exercise, announced Frampton, who labored under the tolerably widespread delusion that total strangers and chance acquaintances are hungry for the least detail of one's ailments and infirmities, their cause and cure. On the matter of diet, they are not much in agreement, he continued. No, said Mrs. Appleton. Oh, sorry, in a voice which only replaced a yawn at the last moment. Then she suddenly brightened into alert attention, but not to what Frampton was saying. Here they are at last, she cried, just in time for tea. And don't they look as if they are muddy up to the eye? Frampton shivered slightly and turned towards the niece with a look intended to convey sympathetic comprehension. The child was staring out through the open window with dazed horror in her eyes. In a chill shock of nameless fear, Frampton swung round in his seat and looked in the same direction. Okay, hold on. In the deepening twilight, 3 figures were walking across the lawn toward the window. They all carried guns under their arms, and one of them was additionally burdened with a white coat hung over his shoulders. A tired brown spaniel kept close at their heels. Noiselessly, they neared the house, and then a hoarse young voice chanted out of the dusk, I said, Bertie, why do you bound? Frampton grabbed wildly at his stick and hat. The hall door, the gravel drive, and the front gate were dimly noted stages in his headlong retreat. A cyclist coming along the road had to run into the hedge to avoid an imminent collision. Here we are, my dear, said the bearer of the white mackintosh, coming in through the window. Fairly muddy, but most of it's dry. Who was that who bolted out as we came up? A most extraordinary man, Mr. Nuttall, said Mrs. Sappleton. Could only talk about his illnesses, and dashed off without a word of goodbye or apology when you arrived. One would think he had seen a ghost. I expect it was the spaniel, said the niece calmly. He told me he had a horror of dogs. He was once hunted into a cemetery somewhere on the banks of the Ganges by a pack of pariah dogs, and had to spend the night in a newly dug grave with the creatures snarling and grinning and foaming just above him, enough to make anyone lose their nerve. Romance at short notice was her specialty. The end. Oh, that's funny. Oh. So just a 15-year-old girl making up a load of baloney just to scare a stranger. That would be funny, though. If the aunt's out of the room and can't. Yeah. Oh, goodness. Goodness me. Well, I hope you guys had fun with me tonight. I had fun with you tonight. Keep an eye out for the crowdfunder for Written in the Dark. Please check out AG Mock, author, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram. We'll be working together on some things. Yeah. We'll be back. I'll see you guys, some of you guys, tomorrow night at 9. Over on the Hallowed Hearth podcast. Some of you I will see maybe Saturday out in the wild. Somebody just fell down in my house. So I'm going to go check that out. But I will talk to you guys very, very soon. Thank you so much for being with me tonight. I'll see you guys later.